Oh wow, a pumpkin farm. What luck. I was getting a little hungry anyway.
Wacko, what are you doing?
What? I was just hungry.
This is Rehash's farm. He doesn't let anyone eat anything here. Not even him.
I wouldn't worry too much, mate. He probably won't be that mad.
You really don't understand what consequences of your actions are, do you?
We're kind of the main character, mate. We don't really have consequences to our actions.
Yeah, but this isn't your show. This is... whatever. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. In this case, this is Animaniacs, Episode 4, Season 2. The episode begins at night at the Warner Tower where everyone's trying to get some sleep. Unfortunately, Dot has to remain awake because of a leaky faucet. So she kind of abruptly wakes up her brothers in order to complain about the problem. Both Yakko and Wacko provide some form of solution, and even Ralph chimes in. But it's not enough for her. It's not enough to just cover up the problem, they need it fixed. So, they're gonna complain to their landlord. Well, it's less landlord and more warden, but tomato tomato. Okay, Wacko, I really gotta ask. When did Dot turn into such a bitch?
Well, she's always been bossy.
Yeah, bossy. But bossy and just total lack of empathy towards all of us is a very different thing.
So the Warner siblings go to complain to their landlord warden, but she seems to be occupied with another hostile entity, as the Warners are thrown aside by— oh my god, she's breeding!
Okay, who is this, and why did they steal La Cienaga's whole flow from Proud Family? No, seriously, just look at her. She looks like she just walked on the set of the Proud Family and just stole La Cienaga's whole getup.
This is Cora,
Boo.
the CEO's daughter. And she stole more than just La Cienaga's whole getup. She also apparently stole her rich bitch personality, as she is very demanding about her 16th birthday coming up, and she storms off like a spoiled little bitch, ignoring the Warners. And apparently, the CEO is a bad mom, and I have even more reason to dislike her.
Not that we needed one.
Your daughter?
Why is she so angry?
Did you just find out she's related to you?
Actually,
Hold it.
Oh my god. That might actually be the first joke in the entire season that actually made me laugh.
The jokes themselves have been falling pretty flat this season, just like last season. But if there's one thing you don't discount Yakko on, it's vicious mockery.
And while it is comforting to know that she is purposely written to be the unlikable CEO, to where even the Warners can't stand her, we still actively prefer the old one. So, active CEO bitch is at her last string of sanity because of her daughter, and then the Warners show up because they demand their rental property be fixed by their landlord. But she doesn't want to because she's busy. They attempt to serenade her with a song, but she refuses. But then she realizes, oh right, the Warners can actually sing. So she creates a proposal.
Apparently the boy band that her daughter wanted to play her Sweet 16 bailed on her, so now they're not only lacking music, but they're lacking the star power. But if the Warners have the ability to sing, she is actively hoping that her daughter accepts the replacement rather than the genuine article. Though the Warners do have demands, the CEO kind of dismisses them, as the Warners get the raw end of the deal, no matter how you slice it. So we cut to later that night, as Cora checks all the check marks of a spoiled, rotten brat.
Boo.
Look, I know her name is Cora, but you can't just keep booing her because you don't like Legend of Korra.
Oh, that's not why I'm booing her. I just have something against spoiled, rotten teenage brats.
Okay, that's fair.
But then comes the moment of truth. Enter the boy band Warners.
I mean, on one hand, I love the fact that they're attempting to hide the Warners in the shadow and smoke fog. Like, you could definitely tell that she's trying to cover her tracks, but That's clearly not the physique. But you know what? That is funny. That is genuinely funny.
Wait a minute. What is this feeling I feel? It's not the usual contempt for this show that I normally feel.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel it too. Like, it's almost excitement?
Enjoyment?
Are we actually watching a good quality episode?
Well, don't stop there. Keep it coming.
I actually have optimism for this episode.
Of course, it's not particularly long before the secret gets called out, and the Warners are revealed. And naturally, La Sienna Cora is incredibly pissed. The bitch CEO lady tries to throw the Warners under the bus, saying that they sabotaged the whole thing. But I don't believe the Proud Family wannabe cares, because at the end of the day, her party is ruined by this event.
And get off my stage and send these three back where they came from. I'm guessing Dr. Seuss's garbage can.
Dr. Seuss's what? Oh, those are fighting words. Those are freaking fighting words. Okay, I'm gonna pull a Grunkle Stan here. Come on! Revenge! Well, Dot doesn't take that insult lying down, and she straight up brings out her princess title. But being a spoiled teenage La Cienega wannabe, she doesn't take this affront lying down and tries to defend her pride, not knowing that there are consequences when you deal with the Warners. I mean, there's no problems that a quick strike with a wooden mallet wouldn't fix, but Dot decides to play the manipulation game and has her manipulated into destroying her own party by having nothing up to her standards. The mom tries to overly correct, but Dot just keeps poking the bear. And Yakko and Wacko surprisingly do very little throughout this ordeal. Like, dude, she insulted you two as well. You have every right to be poking the bear alongside Dot. Get your act together. Regardless, things escalate, and the entire building, as well as the entire party, is left in literal ruins.
And this is where the show takes a bit of a turn for the worse. Instead of giving just consequences to her spoiled, rotten behavior, they try to understand her and try to comfort her because they know deep down she's actually a good girl. Spoiler alert, just because you're a girl and just because you're a teenager doesn't mean that you get off consequence free. You don't get to play the I'm a victim card when all you've been is a spoiled, rotten brat who needs a good spanking.
Yeah, they really try to play the sympathy card because a guy that she likes that was never brought up couldn't make it to the party because he was off in another country. Girl, you destroyed an entire building and acted like a spoiled brat and destroyed your own birthday party because a boy you liked couldn't show up?
And the worst part is, I can't tell if they're playing this off as a gag or they're trying to be genuinely serious about it. And I'm not sure which is worse. Wacko, I really gotta ask, why?
Well, I was kind of against this too, but I got outvoted, so I kind of just shut up.
What was the original idea?
We were going to have the CEO lady actually grow a pair and give consequences to her child, and then she would have turned out a normal, healthy girl.
Now you see that? That I would have actually accepted, and it would have made this a 10 out of 10 episode. Legitimately, the Warners have no reason to play nice to either of these people.
Well, thankfully, the episode doesn't actually end there, as the boy band that they were gashing about actually shows up. They didn't diss, they were just running late.
But it doesn't really matter, the party's destroyed.
Well, they still have a water tower, so the boy band decides to perform at the water tower, while fixing the leaky pipes.
Well, that's a surprise twist I didn't see coming.
I mean, the La Cienega spoiled brat kinda gets rewarded for her bad behavior, but they managed to make this random background boy band group the first likable characters in new gen Animaniacs.
Now I would love to get up on my little soapbox and preach to you, my audience, about how bad and how terrible the reboot of the Animaniacs is, and we can all point and laugh at their pathetic attempts at reliving the glory days together. But I do have a brand, and my brand is genuinely honest. And my honest opinion is, this episode shows that the show writers can actually produce something of quality. But on one paw, I can easily say that this episode ranges above mid and goes right into the category of good. But on the other hand, I can easily say if they were capable of creating writing like this from the start, not perfect, but serviceable entertainment that we actually enjoy, then why can't every episode meet similar qualities?
But then we cut to the Pinky and the Brain segment, which feels more like Pinky and the Brain filler than a Pinky and the Brain episode.
Probably because the Animaniacs portion took up so much time. They just needed to throw something together for the Pinky and the Brain segment.
Which begs the question, why not just keep Pinky and the Brain out of this one and just make it full Warners? I'd feel like they could have done that.
So the themes for this Pinky and the Brain episode is Pinky with a vlog.
And you know, that kind of is it. That's kind of the episode. It's Pinky vlogging.
Now, on one hand, I would say a story like this does make it feel a little bit dated, but I can also see them openly mocking people who are so annoying with the vlogs. Johnny Somali and other prank channel vloggers don't get hated enough! But I also remember that there was a Pinky and the Brain episode, I don't know if it was Animaniacs or from their original show, that had a POV of Pinky point of view, where you get to experience everything from Pinky's perspective. This kind of reminds me of that, except, you know, doing it a lot more cringy.
Well, throughout the individual segments of Pinky vlogging and doing all types of cringeworthy stuff, we kind of piece together what Brain's plan this episode actually is. His goal is to scientifically manipulate the lottery in order to get the winnings so he can fund his next ventures of taking over the world. I'll accept this. Especially since they do a creative method of trying to manipulate it by manipulating the temperature to get the right balls in order to predict a more favorable outcome for them.
But the plan ultimately fails because Pinky has been live streaming the lottery numbers, and thus everybody across his millions of viewers actually wins the lottery. So the total amount goes from $2 million, or whatever they say, to a mere $6.66. Definitely a setback, but the plan ultimately did not fail. He could always try again with a different system, but it looks like the lottery is put on permanent hold because the newscaster believed that they were actually summoning the devil. Brain is actually pretty chill about the whole ordeal, as he tells Pinky that they must prepare for tomorrow night, for they will once again try and take over the world.
On one hand, I really don't want to celebrate a vlog-based episode because I'm not the biggest fan of vlogging and this type of video making for cartoon shows. It's very cringy.
The humor is very predictable, and the sayings that they say are always cringeworthy. It is cringe. The episode style is cringe. The episode's jokes are cringe. And everything that happens in these types of episodes are cringe incarnate.
But I will give them a pass because they only had like 2 or 3 minutes of this. So they couldn't have come up with the most hard-hitting jokes imaginable.
And, credit where credit is due, they actually gave us a reason for why they're manipulating the lottery in order to try to take over the world. They actually managed to fit it into the story.
I still feel like they could have cut out the Pinky and the Brain segment entirely and just give the Animaniacs their own episode, and then give Pinky and the Brain their own episode later on.
And the worst part is, I can't really disagree with that logic.
While getting rid of 90% of the cast of the Animaniacs is incredibly obvious that it's a mistake. But one of the benefits of cutting down your cast to only a select amount is you can hone in on those specific ones and write better stories for them. Which is also why we've been incredibly harsh on the Animaniacs from Season 1 to now, and possibly in the future. There's no reason why they can't hone in on make great stories for these characters now, because they can hone in and actually focus on those characters.
But in any case, this episode managed to make it above mid-grade and into the good category, which actually makes me hopeful for the rest of the season. But until then, this has been a gentleman's chat. I'm Gent, I'm Rehash,
And I'm Decipher.
and we will see you all. What happened to all my pumpkins? Wacko did it.
Oh, hey, Rehash. I have to say, I really like how you grew all those pumpkins. They were delicious. Well, I'm certainly glad you enjoyed them. I have a new project in mind as well. It's called Potted Tune. And with that, we will see you all next time.